So I'm going to talk about the communication aspect of the application. So looking at the, let's look at the overview real quick. So messages, so all components are going to communicate using messages, and the system uses basically what's called a chain of command, where messages are going to be passed from component to component. So, for instance, if the inspector card starts a message and it's for the inspector, which is a completely different manager, it will go along the chain of command to the inspector card maker, to the module manager. And once it reaches the module manager, or sorry, once it reaches any kind of manager, what will happen is the manager will then forward it to the hub, who will handle the message. The hub serves as a mediator between all of the different components, and so it has access to all of the managers, and it can call functions directly through there. And so all the major intercomponent activity is done in this centralized location, which is called the hub. So going back to the communication section. So communication, like I said, we're passing messages, and so the messages are actually a message class, and the message class has the following fields: to, from, type, and data. And so these are all private fields that are encapsulated in the message, and in order to access the message, a message handler is going to call the read message function, and it'll return the information. None of this can be updated except for the from. So if you wanted to, you can modify the from as it's passing the message along the chain of command. So like I said before, there's a to and a from variable, and so these are actually constants that are defined in the constants.js file in the shared variables folder. So if you want to send it to, say, if you want to send a message to, say, the environment, you would import these constants, and then you would just write environment for easier visibility. But really, it's just a 3. So all messages are sent using the publisher. So a publisher is going to have a set of subscribers, and whenever a message is published, the message will be passed to this publish message function, and this is going to loop through each subscriber in the list, and it's going to pass the message to their handler. To subscribe, a component will access the publisher of the component they wish to subscribe to, and then they're going to pass their subscriber, which essentially consists of a message handler. So when you create your subscriber, you're going to pass the message handler function to it, and that'll bind it to the subscriber, and then that way, however messages are handled, it'll just all be done automatically whenever a publisher publishes the message that this component is subscribed to. So looking at the actual code, here's the message. Like I said, so it's really quite simple. It's just for consistency, all messages should be sent as instances of this class. The publisher class, it's going to have a subscriber list, and this just counts how many publishers there are. If I haven't really used that much, but it's just there in case that's useful later. You can also print all of the subscribers to make sure everything is correct. So to publish a message, like I said, it loops through and will send the message to each one of the subscribing components message handlers. Subscriber, very simple, like I said before. So look at an example of sending a message. So the functions will all have the send message function, because I just find it's easier to call the send message function than it is to call the publisher and send it directly. It's a little bit cleaner. So all messages are going to be a message class with the to, the from, and a type. So the type refers to it's just saying what the event is. That's how I think of it. And so that's going to define how the message is handled by the message handler. And the data can be anything. So the data can be any kind of object that you want to pass to another component. So I mentioned the hub. So this is where messages end up if they are um, going from one manager to another. And there's be more on this in the hub section, but just briefly, the hub subscribes. If you look here, the hub subscribes to all of these other functions. So GM is the global manager, and the global manager has pointers, references to each of these other managers, such as the the environment, the data manager, the module manager, the inspector, the inspector manager. Sorry, that's the input manager, the pipeline manager, etc. So it has access to all of them, and so each function that handles one of these specific uh, messages is stored in a hash table. So when the message actually comes to the hub, it's passed through to the message handler, and so the message will be read here, and then based on the two contents, who it's for, it'll look into the message handler map, which is just a hash table, and it'll find the correct function, and it'll be passed the message type and the data to handle it. And then, for instance, we can look down here and you'll see, all right, so let's say the message was a resize of a pop-up event. This is for the output manager, and it's going to call the resize pop-up event function, which is down here. And each one of these functions is passed data, which is confusing. So I went through and I detailed every parameter that is part of that detail function. I mean, most of them are pretty simple, but some of them are more complex. And so, yeah, so that's the basics on how the communication works.